That's right. Tonight's another episode of Bring Your Own Security Radio. I am Dave, the IT guy. Tonight we're talking about SecureWorld Regional Expos and so much more. Thanks for tuning in and spending an hour with us. Don't forget, keep your info for your CPEs for listening to this podcast. Hello again, my name is Dave. I am known as Dave the IT guy around the greater Cincinnati area. Why, would you ask? Well, because I've been in the IT field in this area for more than 20 years, consulting. I've had my hands in a lot of things. You know, one of the things I like to remind people about, since I just briefly kind of talked about consulting, is that people talk about virtualization, right? And they think VDI, or they think about VMware or Hyper-V, or some of the newer cloud-based solutions or hyper-converged solutions. And people forgetting about application virtualization. And back in the day, there used to be this little, lesser known application. And now, well, not now, that's a bad way to say it. Over the last, 10, 12 years, Microsoft has called it AppV, APP-V, and but they bought that little company back in the day when they were competing with Citrix and Novell. So don't forget about application virtualization. It's a great thing and awesome way to save money on licensing and to save bandwidth, hardware requirements. You can even push applications out to phones. One of the best things about it was, back in the day when I was doing it, was healthcare. A lot of different applications needed different versions of the same thing, different versions of Java, different versions of .NET, etc. And when you put application virtualization these apps together, they work in their own little bubble space, right? And so the application sees the local machine's hardware and it says, "Oh, okay, I'm on a Windows 7 or a Windows 10 or whatever," and it's able to work just fine. But it doesn't see side-by-side applications unless you package them all together. So, for example, you do something that needs nothing but Java, you package that with that particular version of Java, and that application thinks the only thing on the computer is me and Java, right? It doesn't know the difference. Whereas you might need an application that calls on Java, and it might have to call Notepad or Microsoft Word to create reports and things like that. So you package those three things together in its own little bubble, and the application thinks, I'm the only one here. So you could literally open an application up that runs an old Java, let's say, 5.5, just for the heck of a demonstration. And then you open another application that says, I need Java, 9.0. And you could run those two applications side by side on the same computer. They don't interfere with each other. You don't have problems with Java issues. It's awesome if you've never done application virtualization, and I would bet a good chunk of you have not, because it's nowhere near as common as it should be. But if you do any kind of hardware virtualization at all, why are you not doing application virtualization with it? I mean, you're missing the boat like no other. So anyway, since I was on that topic, I thought I would. Now, I also would like to say, give out my apologies to Bruce Sussman. So he and I got together and pre-recorded an interview that was to air tonight. And we ran it through some filtering and some stuff, and somehow the audio got corrupted. So we're going to bring Bruce back and do that all over again. But tonight I want to make sure that I talk a little bit about what he and I spoke of and make sure that that information gets out. And the reason that that's important to me is that some of the Secure World events are coming up soon. Many past. They do I think it was like 18 in a year. And they come and go. So I want to make sure that that we don't miss talking about his. Now, I'm in the Cincinnati area, and coming up on October 17th, in a Cincinnati suburb called Sharonville, is the Cincinnati event, and it's going to be great. And I'm lucky enough that I actually got invited to be the roundtable host. Now, I'm not just a podcaster who talks a bunch of big words that I Googled, and say things and not know the context. I am a CISSP. I've been a certified ethical hacker since 2009. I've held 3 versions of a CCNA, meaning I got them, they expire, get a new one, whatever, etc. I've held every MCSE since NT40 and a whole bunch of other vendor and or industry certs, including the ITIL. Gosh, what else do I do? I've got the Certified Incident Handler from EC Council. So I've had my fingers in a lot of pies. I'm no slouch here. So um, when we talk about topics, either between consulting for more than 10 years of my career and touching different industries like retail and manufacturing, specifically automotive and machining type of manufacturing, PLC controllers, things like that. Also, just doing straight up, hey, I need 500 servers on some VMs, and I need some new infrastructure, and I need a new mail server, etc. What can you do for me? And just going in and architecting something new and then building it after I designed it. So I've had my hands in a lot. I've been in the healthcare sector for more than 12 years of my career, and I've traveled around the world consulting. I've been all over the U.S. I've been in Mexico. I've been to the Caribbean. And I've been to the UK. I've been to Spain, France, and Germany. So when we go to talk about these things, I know what I'm doing. And the people that are going to be in Cincinnati on this roundtable, I just said all this stuff about me. And it was a little bit to toot my horn. I'll just be honest. But it was also to show that I don't just get on air and just throw a bunch of big words out. And for all of the great things I've done and all of the things that I think, separate me from the pack to some extent in my area, the people on this upcoming roundtable are awesome. I mean, these guys, and some of the speakers that will be in Cincinnati, Steve Brown, used to be the chief evangelist from Intel. They call him the bald futurist. He's going to be in Cincinnati as the keynote speaker. Some of the people that's on the Cincinnati Advisory Council, a guy named George Bailey out of Purdue University, a guy named Doug Carter out of Munich, Michael Carr from Hildebrand, Leo Cronin, the VP and CSO out of Cincinnati Bell. And if you didn't know about Cincinnati Bell was the first consumer level high-speed internet. Cincinnati Bell brought DSL, was the first public company to bring DSL to the customers in the entire country. And I happened to work in the data center at the time, and I started racking old Cisco 675 cable modems back in the day. And we sold, we had dial-up internet at 56K. We all of a sudden started offering 385K, and we could not we couldn't build racks fast enough. Customers were just jumping over like in droves. And at the time, our sales reps in our stores, commission guys, they were making hand over fist cash. I think they made like $70 for commission for every new high-speed internet account they sold. And they would literally be 5 sales reps in a retail store. And from open to close in the first 3 weeks, there would be a line for all 5 sales reps, 10 deep, the entire 8-hour shift. I mean, you just turn people over. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, these guys were raking in, I think in the first 3 weeks from a commission perspective. One of the guys I talked to back then said, I just made $19,000 in 3 weeks because I couldn't, write the orders fast enough. And they ultimately had extended hours for the stores to handle the crush. And that doesn't count all the people that were calling in on the phones. But people thought, man, I don't want to sit 3 hours on hold getting my order processed. I'll just go into a retail store. Oh, crap, I got to go in there, stand 2 hours in line. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I digress. But I bring that up because, the people that put these Secure World events on, the actual people, the guys like Bruce Sussman, his job is to go out and talk about these things and to help recruit some of these great speakers. When we talk about a Black Hat and a DEF CON and all these big events, national, RSA, international events even. And then you think about something like a Secure World, and you're like, man, it's just Cincinnati, and they've got, let's see, I think here in the rest of 2018, there's a few. I'm looking at their schedule off the top of my head, but I think right now we have, so Dallas comes up October 10th and 11th, Cincinnati is October 17th, Denver is October 31st and November 1st, Seattle is November 7th and 8th. So those are the last ones in 2018. And then we start in March in Charlotte of 2019, in Boston in March, Philly in April, Houston in April, Toronto, Ontario in April, Kansas City in May, and coming back to Cincinnati even in May. So, these guys are not slouches in putting on these events, but the speakers that they get are people that are top notch in many industries, and they're not just people that know big buzzwords, right? These are people that are in the trench, so to speak. They're doing things, they're racking things, they're logging in and configuring things, they're troubleshooting things, they're going into companies and architecting brand new things. I mean, they're just thing people, right? These are people that are doing big things, and they're in your neighborhoods, they're in your state, your maybe 3-state region, but they're there and they're doing things that are amazing. Why do I hopefully my excitement about this event comes through and why I'm talking about this, because you can go to these events and sit next to a guy or a girl that you've never met before, and you find out they work in a company right down the street, or maybe right across town, or maybe a few miles down the road, or maybe they're in the downtown of your area, right, or a suburb. But these are people that you can meet and have lunch with. These are people that you can exchange email and phone numbers with. And these are people that, maybe they bought and implemented a technology that you're considering. And you can ask them about their real world experience. And you can talk to them and you can share info. And maybe even, I've been lucky enough to even do a little partnership thingy where, we were getting ready to implement something that somebody else had implemented. And upon meeting someone, I was like, hey, what if I'm having trouble with this? Would you be willing to let me call one of your techs and ask questions? I know he's on your clock. And in return, I have a skill set from the CISSP world, auditing and things. And if you needed to maybe perform some, arbitrary audit, not a month long, but you need somebody to come in and take a day to maybe review a new process that you're putting in place, a new procedure, or a quick audit of something, I'll trade you. You let me have access to one or two of your guys that do something I don't know how to do, and I'll give you access to me or some of my people that have skill sets that you don't have on staff, right? And we can trade that off. And in one case, we were actually competitive healthcare systems. We're vying for that same patient in our area and their insurance dollars. And, behind the business, the reality is we're all in the InfoSec field. We're all in technology. And yes, we're in healthcare, but, we're not out front selling you stuff. We're trying to do the best we can to keep our patient dollars there, because you know what? Some of my families might show up at your hospital, and some of your family might show up in my doctor's offices or my hospitals, and you want our abilities to keep your family's patient info safe and secure, right? And I want the same out of you, so I'm willing to help. And it's amazing how people don't think something that simple, right? Instead of going out and paying, tens of thousands of dollars for consultant fees to bring somebody in to take a look at something, you now have the ability to trade and kind of barter and make a deal with somebody. It's amazing, and it's all because you went to an event like SecureWorld and you sit down next to somebody at a time when you needed to hear about something. So you're able to see that person in this environment and know that they know what they're talking about, right? Maybe it's one of the speakers. These speakers, they put in their submission to speak at these events, right? Kind of like a black hat and an RSA or a DEF CON, they say, here's the topic I want to talk about, and here's why I'm good at it. And the Secure World Advisory Panel says, okay, yep, that's a good topic. Let's bring you in, right? So then you meet that person after their speech, and and make that deal. Like, hey, man, I'd love to learn more. Can we go out for a beer? Or, can I shoot you an email sometime if I have an oddball question? And, what kind of things do you need? And maybe I can offer that. So I don't want to beat that horse about trading, but I got to tell you, I made a deal like that not too long ago, and it's already paid dividends on both sides of the equation. Even just shooting a quick email with a screenshot of, hey, you ever seen something like this before? And then within like 45 minutes, like, oh yeah, dude, it's this, go figure this or go download that or whatever. And saving me, the time to open a ticket with a vendor and dealing with that kind of mess. B, trying to go out and Google crap on my own. C, even if the other two things didn't work, having to bring a consultant in to do it for me. None of that. I sent an email, I sent a screenshot. So I can't say it enough how these smaller regional events are so well worth it. And, I say events, Secure World puts on a great stuff. I went to the Cincinnati one last year and it was amazing. And that really kind of got my thought juices going about, what can I do to make things better and how can I be more involved? And then for whatever reason, I didn't know at that point about, these other smaller InfoSec things like in Cincinnati. Matt Shearer, who is going to be doing one of the presentations in Cincinnati. He is the leader of a security interest group here in Cincinnati. And once a month, he gets somebody to come in, and in some cases, two or three somebodies in the course of a 2 or 3 hour night. And they come in and do presentations. And it's a one-day thing, one-night thing, a few hours late at night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. All right. But now he's in the banking industry as a security practitioner. And I've known Matt now for a couple years, and I've had him on this show. And I'm also able to shoot him an email or give him a call and develop that relationship and keep that context going. And Matt was actually instrumental in getting me invited to be the roundtable host per se for the Cincinnati Secure World event. So it's those kind of things, that going to these events, I cannot possibly be excited enough or overly excited per se about these kind of events and these sized events. And there are so many others like that you really need to seek. So again, SecureWorldExpo.com is the website. Bruce Sussman again, who was gracious enough to give me 45 minutes of his time a few days ago. Hopefully will be equally as gracious to bring it back. But if you end up at a Secure World event, most likely Bruce is there. He travels to all of them, I do believe. So look him up. Great source of knowledge. And if you're ever looking for somebody to say, hey, do you know somebody that does whatever? Bruce runs these things. He recruits vendors. He recruits speakers. If there's anybody out there that would know somebody that does something, it's probably going to be Bruce. I mean, this guy's got contacts like you wouldn't believe. And I don't mean the ones that go in your eyeballs. I mean, this guy, he knows people, And yeah, anyway, we'll get off that topic. But great stuff out of Bruce. And his interview was just awesome. And Um, the nice thing for me is I get to do it all over again because, um, technology is what it is, and um, you know, things happen. So, all right, Secure World. Gosh, some of these Secure World events are 1 day, some are 2 days, right? So, since our event happens to be 1 day, you heard me mention some of the other locations, like I think Philly this year, or Philly like April 10th and 11th, etc. of next year. Um, Dallas this year is October 10th and 11th. St. Louis was September 18th, 19th. So some of them have 2 day events, and I'm not sure what the why. You know what I mean? Why some are two and some are only one. I imagine it's because Secure World is newer to some of these areas than they are to others, and so they're still developing the volume of content. They're still getting the word out for patrons to sign up to come. So I imagine it's some to do with that. But yeah, it's my goodness, what a great event. I just, highly enough, I was able to find 21 minutes to talk about one thing like that because of how much fun I have at their events. So, yeah, Secure World. I want to take a minute, or probably a few minutes, to also talk about some stuff that's kind of happening that's current. Things like, one of the newest hacker things is they have created a volume of fake PayPal sites. And the purpose of these fake PayPal sites is to get you to sign in, of course, to sell things. And you sign in, if you go to paypal.com, you can create, go in and sign in and create an item for sale. So you give it a SKU if you want to, item description, its price, its shipping, sales tax, and all that stuff. And then you can create a link to your sales website or to your blog or to your Twitter about that item, right? Well, if you log into one of these fake sites, you've done a couple things. One is you've logged in and you used your PayPal credentials to get logged in. And so now they have your real PayPal credentials. Secondly, when you created your item for sale, you had to tell it, okay, if somebody buys, I want you to send the money to this account, bank account, whatever. So you then had to type in information so that money could get transferred to your bank account. Well, the newest trickery is creating all these PayPal accounts. And somehow or another, it's working very well. And I say somehow or another because I pay very, very close attention to web URLs. When I click a link or get into email and I'm clicking an email link to send an email to somebody, if it's link based, I take a minute to look at the link of where I'm going or what I'm clicking. And I make sure that it's not some ridiculousness. And if I'm trying to get a PayPal to sign in for something and the URL says paypal-us.abccompany.org slash login slash whatever, I know that that's not PayPal's website. I just know it. And I know I'm getting tricked in some way, and I don't click it, and I don't go there. Instead, I type paypal.com, right? I type the URL I want to go to. That way I know I'm not clicking on something I shouldn't be. So I guess it's because I've been in the field 21 years. I guess it's because I teach, staff what to look for at the hospital system I work for. But I just don't understand how people are getting tricked into going to these sites and typing in all this info and going through all this effort. And ultimately, you're not selling anything because you're at a scam website and you just got compromised with all of your info. How do you not know that, people? How are you not paying attention to what you're logging into? all of these sites have something that will give it away that you're not where you're supposed to be. Either the URL is wrong, or the little HTTPS locky thing, or the certificate isn't there, or it doesn't match the right name, or the way the website is worded. Most of these folks are not native English speakers, and they use bad grammar. And maybe when you talk yourself, you don't have great grammar, so when you read it, you hear it in your own ear, right? And you read like you talk, and you're like, oh, that sounds perfectly normal. I mean, whatever the issue is, I don't know how you're not picking up on it, but please, please pay attention. Same goes for URLs, for websites, addresses, email addresses. Pay attention. If you don't know how to read a URL, just Google it. Go out to Google and type, teach me how to read a URL, or teach me how to spot a fake URL, teach me how to spot a fake email. You'll find a boatload of resources that are free, some are paid, and you'll be able to figure out for yourself how to not get fooled. But my God, people, I mean, this isn't rocket science, man. And how are you still getting caught up in this stuff, right? All right. Well, all right. So what else is going on? So we've got, of course, some things are around the world. Google recently, I think it was Tuesday, whatever day October 2nd was, came out with 5 major security updates for Chrome extensions. Now remember, people talk about doing your Windows updates, right? And people talk about doing your application updates and things like that. But a lot of people forget to do like updates on their extensions for either Chrome or Firefox or IE or whatever they have extensions for, and they forget to update them. So remember, there are extensions that can get compromised. Anyway, Google 5 major security announcements regarding Google Chrome extensions. A couple of them surround cryptocurrency mining scripts, how to disable the installation of these things, etc. Host permissions was one of the current changes. Google is now banning code obfuscation for Chrome extensions. So if the code is obfuscated, Google just bans it. Now Google is also requiring mandatory two-step verification for their developers, so that if you put something in a Google store, you're going to be verified like two-factor. And they get a new review process, and apparently it's pretty strict. Looking for anything that's got permissions that are too powerful. So Google at least is doing that. They're trying to do something to help stem the tide of all the nonsense that's going down, right? God, Monday. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Ghost DNS. How many people raise your hand? And of course I can't see you, so I'm just going to assume y'all did. But raise your hand if you heard about Ghost DNS. It's a new DNS changer, kind of botnet thingy, but it's hijacked over 100,000 roughly routers, and this was 4 days ago. So by now, mostly the home, the Soho, the consumer grade wireless router things, not your high end Palo Altos and other things, but basically it gets in there, and it's malware, of course. It changes DNS server settings on the device so that they can route all of your traffic through their servers, and then basically just monitor what you do and steal your data. What it's looking for is basically routers that have like default login and passwords, or like no username and password, just blank. What was it? 21? Yeah. 21 different manufacturers were known to be openly compromised. So again, pay attention, write. I was trying to look. I had a list. Oh, here we go. So yeah. So just briefly, um, most of the D-Link DIR model things, DIR 600, 610, 615, 905Ls, the D-Link Share Center, the Intelbras, Intelbras, their models, Huawei, Huawei, um, MikroTik, which is a fairly common one. Of course, TP-Link, which is home for very common in the smart home sector for people. So if you got TP-Link, if you have a Zyxel router, which are very common with the ISPs when they say, hey, yeah, we'll bring you a wireless router free for signing up for our service. It's usually a Zyxel brand. They get some other kind of off brands as well. Fiber Home, FiberLink, those brands. Um, so those are the major brands that. The Air router, AirOS is another one. So these are all known to be affected routers. Um, so if you have anything I just said, you need to do a couple of things. One is change the password. If it has a default password or if it has nothing, you make one and you make it hard. And secondly is update the firmware to the most common. Most of these people have put out firmware updates over the last 2 to 4 days. What else has happened recently? Telegram, the calling feature from Telegram, supposedly secure messaging. Well, they found that a researcher found that it was leaking your IP address, so not so secure after all. But there has been a patch released. I think it was Saturday or Sunday that the patch was out. So if you have not updated since at least Sunday, go do an update. And of course, we all heard about Facebook this week being compromised and having to send out or having it expired, 50 some million, 60 some million passwords for users. So if you were one of the ones that had to reset your password, hopefully you made it a good one, big, long, 12 characters or more, special character sort of deal, right? Don't get lazy. Hey, while we're on the topic of lazy and passwords, I want to tell you that, and again, I make no money off what I'm getting ready to say. I'm a customer, not a spokesperson. But if you are considering a password keeper kind of software, yes, there's a bunch of free great ones. KeePass, LastPass comes to mind. But if you're going to use multiple devices that are multiple OSs, like Windows computer, you got an iPad, an iPhone, or an Android phone, whatever, I encourage you to check out Dashlane. I use it. You can it'll sync between multiple devices in real time. You can go online. You can print stuff out. You can use it as what they call a light, so that you can just use it from a thumb drive and let it sync. There's even browser extensions like Chrome and Firefox for Dashlane. I don't remember how much it costs. I bought like a 5-year thing. I got a Groupon for it like last year or something, and I bought it for 5 years for like $129 or something. Got it on 7 different devices around our house. So I encourage you, use it. Why am I saying that? Well, yes, I forget all my damn passwords, and I don't like to reuse passwords. I am a stickler for that. And I'm certainly not going to remember, 150 passwords to work things and website things and personal things, whatever. So it helps me with that. It auto logs you into stuff. But it also, as breaches are reported, Dashlane pops up a notice when you log in that, hey, there's 8 breaches that you're a customer of, and your password is in that breach list. So it automatically tells you, yep, you've been compromised, and there's an automatic like little change my password button, so you can have it automatically just randomly generate a password for you that's like super strong, or you can click the button and do it manually, like, okay, I'll go change my password right now, and here's what I want my new one to be. So a lot of options, and it really, kind of makes it dummy proof, right? Keeps it easy for you to know that you've been compromised. And so yeah, So check them out, Dashlane. I think it's just dashlane.com again. I don't recall because I don't log into the website every day because I use the automated pieces, right? The browser extension and the Windows-based pieces and Android-based for my phone. So Dashlane, passwords secure, keep them rock solid, and quit reusing your same password everything. That's how you get compromised. Right on. So let's get off that topic. What was new? Oh yeah, so today, that there was basically like a supply chain attack. So China, so like U.S. companies that, let me make sure I say it correctly. Um, so Bloomberg, obviously, big company, big news organization, revealed in an article that a tiny surveillance chip, a little micro, little piece of technology about the size of a grain of rice had been found hidden on servers used by nearly 30 million American companies, including Apple and Amazon. And these chips were not part of the original motherboards uh, designed by Supermicron. They had been inserted during the manufacturing process in China. In a report, they said they did a 3-year long top secret investigation by the U.S. claims that Chinese government affiliated groups managed to infiltrate the supply chain to install tiny surveillance chips to motherboards, which ended up in servers deployed by U.S. military, U.S. intelligence agencies, and private companies like Apple and Amazon. Apple made its discovery back in May of 2015 after detecting odd network activity and firmware problems, and reported it and started getting help from the government. So, great, scary thing. What was great though is that they discovered it, right? Because they're like, hey, what's this stuff? So, where all this leads me, of course, is be careful about what you buy and know what you're looking at, but also monitoring. Make sure that you're monitoring the traffic on your network. They found this because they started getting odd network activity and they started having some weirdo firmware problems. So by having, network monitoring software, they were able to determine something was going wrong, and they were able to pull all of that as documentation and ultimately find their problem and report it to the U.S. So to the feds and whoever, CIA, FBI, NSA, LMNOP. I'm sure all the big boys and big girls got involved and get to go investigate and research these guys. So at the end, Supermicro and the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs have strongly denied Bloomberg's findings by releasing lengthy statements. You can find a full list of the official statements by all these people on Twitter. Because why? Because I sent out a tweet about, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes ago, however long we've been on air, about 5 minutes before we went on air, regarding this particular thing. So